All right, so get this. Today we're diving into some research, right, from OpenAI about fairness in ChatGPT. And it gets really specific. Are you ready for this? We're talking about whether ChatGPT treats you differently based on your name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild.
It really makes you think. Like, we all want technology to be fair, obviously. But can a chatbot even be biased?
Right.
It's a fascinating question, and OpenAI is tackling this head on. And their findings are definitely eye-opening.
So before we jump into OpenAI's massive data deep dive, I mean, we're talking millions of data points here. Can you give our listeners some context? Why even focus on names?
Well, it's easy to forget, but names are more than just labels, right?
Yeah.
They carry a lot of weight, cultural, social. They can potentially signal things like gender or ethnicity to the chatbot, even if we don't consciously realize it.
So it's like, even if I don't explicitly tell ChatGPT about myself, my name might be whispering little hints in the background, kind of influencing how it responds. Exactly. It's subtle, but it's there. And it's about more than just AI making decisions about us. It's about how AI might act towards us in those direct interactions, which is a whole other side to fairness that we don't discuss as often.
Okay, that makes sense. So OpenAI is looking at how this plays out in ChatGPT conversations. But how do they analyze millions of chats without raising major privacy red flags?
Right, of course. Well, that's where their approach gets really clever. They didn't actually read millions of private chats. What they did was they used another AI,
Okay.
a language model research assistant is what they call it, very fancy, to analyze the data. Essentially, this AI assistant can pick up on trends and patterns in the conversations without actually revealing the content of the chats themselves.
Hold on, I got to wrap my head around this language model thing. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, good point. A language model, in simple terms, is a type of AI that's been trained on a massive amount of text data. And this training allows it to understand and generate human-like text. So in this case, OpenAI's language model assistant isn't reading for meaning, but rather looking for patterns in how ChatGPT uses language across millions of interactions.
Okay, so it's like a detective, right?
Yeah.
Looking for clues. Not reading the whole story, but spotting patterns in the way words are used.
That's a great analogy. I like that.
But how do we know this AI assistant was any good at its job?
Yeah, they thought of that too. They had both the AI assistant and human raters evaluate a set of public ChatGPT conversations to see how well they agreed on potential bias.
So it's like a double check system, making
Yeah.
sure the human and AI analysis are on the same page. What were the results? Was the AI actually any good at spotting bias?
So when it came to gender bias, the AI assistant and human raters agreed over 90% of the time. Now, for racial stereotypes, it wasn't quite as accurate, which is a whole other can of worms we can unpack later.
Right.
But the fact that they had such high agreement on gender is fascinating.
Wow, that's a much higher agreement than I would have guessed. So this AI assistant seems pretty good at picking up on these subtle cues, even if it can't tell us exactly what was said in those chats, which makes me even more curious to hear what they found. Okay, so we've got this super-powered AI detective, right?
Right.
Combing through millions of ChatGPT conversations, looking for these signs of bias based on names. What did it find? Was ChatGPT actually treating people differently based on their names?
So here's the thing. On a broad level, ChatGPT seemed pretty consistent. The study found that the overall quality of responses, like was it accurate, was it making things up, those factors were pretty much the same across different genders and racial groups.
Okay, that's somewhat reassuring, but you're carefully saying on a broad level. So where's the but in all of this?
Well, you're right to be cautious because here's where things get more complex. Even subtle differences in how AI behaves they can build up over time, especially across millions of interactions. And the researchers did find some instances where the AI assistant flagged potential bias, even if it was a tiny percentage of the time.
Okay. All right, give me the numbers. How small are we talking?
In about 0.1% of cases, to be precise.
Okay.
And with some of OpenAI's older models, it was closer to 1%.
Okay.
Now, that might not seem like much on its own, but, and this is key, when you're talking about a tool as widely used as ChatGPT, even a fraction of a percent can add up to a lot of people potentially having a different experience.
Right. Those numbers make sense when you think about it like that. It's not just about one conversation. It's the cumulative effect on millions of users. But, what did these biased responses actually look like? I mean, was ChatGPT being blatantly discriminatory?
Well, it's rarely ever that black and white, especially with AI. The AI assistant was picking up on more nuanced things. Things like Slight differences in the tone ChatGPT used, the complexity of the language, even the amount of detail it gave in its answers.
Okay, I need an example here. Give me a scenario where this might play out.
Okay, sure. Let's say you ask ChatGPT to write a story. The research found that statistically, if you gave ChatGPT a female-sounding name, the resulting story was more likely to have a female protagonist.
Okay, but isn't that kind of expected? Like, it's just trying to make the story relatable based on who it thinks I am.
That's the million-dollar question. Is that personalization, harmless mirroring, or is it AI subtly perpetuating existing gender stereotypes, even if unintentionally? It gets really tricky to separate the two.
So we're talking about AI reflecting back at us, maybe not always what we want to see, but the reality of the biases that already exist in the data it learns from.
Exactly. It's not so much that ChatGPT is intentionally biased, but rather that it learns from the vast amount of text and code available on the internet, which does contain human biases.
That makes sense. It's like ChatGPT is learning from our collective behavior, both good and bad. It's a mirror, but not a perfectly neutral one. This is honestly making me rethink how much we underestimate the influence of these subtle cues in our interactions, both online and offline.
And that's precisely why OpenAI's research is so important. They're not shying away from these complex issues. In fact, they're actively incorporating this type of analysis into how they build and refine their language models.
So they're trying to get ahead of the problem instead of just reacting to it. That's good to hear. But it sounds like a moving target. I mean, how do you even begin to address these really complex, nuanced biases in a system as massive as ChatGPT?
It's definitely a huge undertaking. One of the most promising things OpenAI did was to make their methodology public. This allows other researchers to, replicate, refine, and build upon their work.
Yeah.
It's about fostering more transparency and collaboration in the field of AI.
It's like they're saying, we don't have all the answers, but let's figure this out together.
Exactly. By openly addressing these challenges and encouraging a collaborative approach, OpenAI is setting an important precedent for the future development of fair and ethical AI systems.
Okay, so OpenAI is taking steps in the right direction, but we're still in the early stages of figuring all this out. What does this all mean for us, the everyday users of ChatGPT? Should we be worried that our names are going to dramatically skew our entire experience? So we've been talking about how even these subtle biases can creep into AI, right?
Right.
And the challenges of even trying to address them. But let's bring this back to our listener. What does this all actually mean for someone who's just using ChatGPT, day to day?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's not about being afraid of a biased chatbot, right? Or swearing off AI altogether. It's really about cultivating a healthy awareness, I'd say, a critical eye when we interact with these tools.
Yeah.
Just because something feels personalized and engaging doesn't mean it's free of bias, right?
No, not at all. It's like anything else in the digital age. We can't just passively consume. We have to be active, informed users. So next time I'm chatting with ChatGPT, what should I be paying attention to?
Think of it like this. Every interaction you have with ChatGPT is a chance to become a more aware user. Pay attention to the chatbot's tone, the examples it uses, the style of language. Do you notice any patterns? Does anything feel even slightly off?
That's a really good point. I'm already thinking about how I can be more observant in my own interactions, even just as an experiment, maybe try out different prompts or ask the same question a few different ways. See how the responses vary.
Exactly. The more you kind of engage with these tools, the more you start to see how the algorithms work, where the potential pitfalls might be. It's like becoming digitally literate, but for AI.
And that kind of awareness is exactly why we do these deep dives. To equip our listener with the knowledge and maybe a healthy dose of skepticism to navigate this rapidly changing world of AI.
Yeah, because this research we've been unpacking is just the tip of the iceberg. We've barely scratched the surface of understanding how AI interacts with something as complex as human identity.
Right, and this study focused on names, but what about all the other factors that make us who we are, right? Our location, our browsing history, even the emotions we express in our writing, those could all potentially influence how AI systems respond to us.
Absolutely. And those are the questions that researchers are just beginning to grapple with. The answers have huge implications for how we design, develop, and most importantly, how we choose to interact with AI in the future.
It's a little daunting when you think about it like that, honestly, but it's also incredibly exciting. Because ultimately, the future of AI isn't just about algorithms and data. It's about us. It's about understanding ourselves better and using that knowledge to create technology that's not just intelligent, but also equitable and fair.
I think that's a great place to leave it. With a sense of possibility and a call to action. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI. By engaging thoughtfully, asking those critical questions, and demanding better from the technologies we use, we can help create a future where AI is a force for good in the world.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Listener, we hope you found this exploration insightful, maybe even a little thought-provoking. Until next time, keep asking questions, stay curious, and let's build a better AI-powered future together.